Lauren Spierer, age 20, was born on January 17, 1991, to Charlene and Robert Spierer. Spierer had a comfortable and safe childhood growing up in Scarsdale, New York. She was described as a good kid and a good student, very loving and caring, and never had an issue making friends. She graduated from Edgemont High School in 2009 and soon after became a student at Indiana University, studying textiles merchandising. She was also very dedicated to her Jewish faith, so much to the point of where, instead of going out of town on vacation or back home for spring break, she worked in Israel planting trees for the Jewish National Fund. Spierer also had a boyfriend named Jesse Wolf, of whom she met years prior while at camp. On July 3rd, 2011, Spierer was having a fun night out with her friends at a local sports bar called Kilroy's. After a few hours, she left the sports bar with her neighbor and friend, Corey Rossman. She left her cell phone and her shoes at the bar, being that she was sitting at a sand-covered patio and was very intoxicated. Rossman was intoxicated as well. Rossman assisted Spierer to her apartment complex, but instead of going to her apartment, they decided to go to Rossman's apartment. Rossman's roommate, Michael Beth, was home when the two arrived, and he noticed that they were very intoxicated, so much to the point of where Rossman got sick and vomited on the carpet and claimed to have passed out soon after, which left Spierer in the care of Beth. Beth tried to have another neighbor assist him in taking care of her, named Jason Rosenbaum. After attempting to get Beth to continue drinking with her at her apartment, and Beth declining, she went on to the neighbor's apartment. While at the apartment, Rosenbaum stated that he noticed that there was a bruise under her eye. She told him it was caused by a fall earlier that evening, and that she was fine. He also stated that she contacted two friends of hers on his phone, but they never answered. Rosenbaum stated that he tried to get Spierer to stay at his apartment and sleep on the couch and sleep everything off and go home in the morning. But Spierer stated she wanted to go ahead and still try to go home. So she left the apartment and he watched her walk up the hill. This would be the last time anyone ever saw Lauren Spierer again. The next morning, her boyfriend Jesse tried texting her and received a reply from one of the restaurant workers at the bar. Afterwards, he retrieved a key from her roommate for the apartment. When entering the apartment, it was clear to Jesse that Spierer had never made it home. So he contacted the police and reported Spierer as missing. An investigation started, and with volunteers, they passed out flyers asking everyone that they came across if they had heard anything or known anything about Spierer's disappearance or her whereabouts. While obtaining information, the investigators discovered that the small town that the university was located in was known for having a thriving drug and alcohol scene. A lot of students partook in partying and drug use, including Lauren. So going back to the night in question, one thing that also happened that night was a small altercation between Corey and another male that lived in Spierer's apartment building. When getting off the elevator on the floor, there were four males that were standing in the hallway that saw Lauren and Corey stumbling down the hallway. It was said that one of the males were very bothered by the way that Corey was handling Lauren and confronted him about it. Corey responded with an attitude, and a small argument happened that led to the man punching Corey in the face, and this led to Corey and Lauren leaving the apartment building. The attorneys of Corey Rossman stated that Corey did not remember most of what happened that night due to him being very intoxicated and also due to him being hit that night. According to Spierer's parents, Corey did not contribute much to the investigation and refused to speak with the investigators or them, although his attorneys have stated that Corey has cooperated with the investigators fully. Around the same time that Lauren went missing, there were at least 56 young women that had gone missing at different colleges across the country. The morning that Lauren went missing, there were several security cameras that spotted her at different times. One of the cameras caught a white truck that was driving around the area around the time that Lauren went missing. Spierer's family eventually created a tip website dedicated to gathering information about Lauren's case. From the website, there were many different leads that were obtained. Soon after, it was reported to the public that there was a person that was driving a truck that could have been involved. A woman who was said to have been the ex-wife of a man named James McClish contacted authorities, urging them to look into McClish. James McClish was an ex-con that served time in prison for assaulting his ex-wife. She stated that during an altercation between her and him, he had referred to Lauren, threatening that she could end up like her, and he was also known for roaming the streets of Bloomington in the early hours of the morning. James McClish was located and agreed to taking a polygraph test to clear his name, in which he passed. Another theory was that Lauren was murdered by a well-known biker gang member and was buried on his property for owing him money for drugs. But once again, the investigators hit a dead end. But there was one lead that investigators took very seriously and thought was the closest that they were going to get to finding out what happened to Lauren. The lead involved a man named Corey Hammerly, a young student that was once known for being a star athlete at Indiana University, but unfortunately went on a downward spiral when getting involved with the drug scene. His life would change when one day he had a breakdown that drugs contributed to. He walked outside one day with nothing on but a baseball cap on his head and started shooting into one of the houses in his neighborhood. After the incident, he was sentenced to 24 years in prison. While in prison, Lauren's story came across the television while he was playing cards with another inmate, when he stated that he knew the guys that had something to do with her disappearance. He stated that Lauren and some guys were drinking and taking drugs when Lauren overdosed, and in fear of the consequences, took her down to the Ohio River and disposed of her body. The investigators took his lead seriously when they discovered that Lauren had a pre-existing condition called QT syndrome, which is a heart condition that causes an irregular heartbeat. The information about the incident was provided by a former inmate of the same prison as Corey. So when obtaining this information, they decided to visit the prison to talk to Corey about what he may have known. But when speaking to Corey, he denied knowing Lauren or having anything to do with the story that was told. At the end of the interview, he was asked if he were to find out any information or was to possibly remember anything, if he would contact the investigators and provide information. He stated very bluntly, no, and that he wanted no association with the case. When this happened, it was more indication to the investigators that he knew more than he was willing to provide. In April of 2015, the FBI started investigating a possible link between Lauren and another case involving a young woman named Hannah Wilson. But with further investigation, there was no connection between the two students' cases. It's been 9 years since Lauren Spierer went missing, and several tips and leads that have led to nothing. And although Lauren's name is no longer talked about as much as it once was, her parents still have hope to one day find out what happened to their loving daughter. But unfortunately, to this day, this case remains unsolved.